Hey there, this is Mark Gruber along with my girlfriend Derek Cuntley from America's Really Old Stories. You are about to hear the most listened to exclusively JFK assassination podcast, and one of my favorites, the Lone Gunman podcast. Now, here's Rob and Joe.
You remember, like Bob Clark and Doug Campbell, they actually devoted a show. What was it called? The Lives of Fletcher
Yeah, the
Project?
Lives of Fletcher Project. What
Right.
Joe?
Yeah.
What an embarrassment. I mean, those.
John D'Angelo is.
Was it George DiGino? James DiEugenio.
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk too and spit on that thing.
Section 107 of the Fair Use Act of 1976 provides protection to use copyrighted material for research, analysis, education, and commentary purposes. We here at Loose Moose Productions reserve that right. Now, on with the show. Here's Joe B. and the Triple B. Hey, Aunt Udine, how's things in Texas?
Everything is going to hell down here in Texas.
Hands on Triple B and Joe B and the Triple B, baby. Triple B and Joe B. Rob Conk and Joe Morelli. Triple B and Joe B and Triple B, baby. Triple B and Joe B. Rob Conk and Joe Morelli. We're coming in. Oh, and it's seeking the truth about JFK. It's a long-going podcast. And here we go.
And here we go.
What's up, everybody? First off, apologies to everyone. Rob's an idiot. I had technical difficulties. I left my phone across town and had to go back and get it. But here we are, half an hour late, but better late than never. And so my apologies to all of you in the chat trying to watch live. We are here. We are queer. We are 3 strong tonight. This is episode number 299, Meet the Jacobs, with our special guest, my friend and yours, Mr. Carmine Savastano. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Good evening, gentlemen. Good to be here.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to have Carmine on, and his link is in the is in the description below for all things Carmine. That's tpack.com, tpaak.com, and you can find his blog there. He does amazing research, and he's here tonight to talk about a little piece he did on Meet the Jacobs, which we're going to get into tonight, along with a week later, almost here, we're gonna dive back into this Trump attempted assassination attempt and get some insight from the mind of Carmine. So stay tuned for that. But we are going to be talking about Meet the Jacobs first. Joe, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing well. Hello, Rob. Hello, Carmine. Of course, Carmine.
Nice Henley.
Nice what?
Nice Henley. Don Henley.
And yeah, we're gonna get into some cool stuff tonight. I had something really cool to say, and you completely distracted.
Sorry,
but
that Henley distracted me. I mean, damn.
Yes, but I am happy to be here.
Haircut.
Yeah. This is what I was gonna say. So we had obviously last week. It is on record. We teased that Carmine was going to be on this week. Carmine is a political assassination researcher. I would say. Yeah. And this was not planned, and it's very fitting. But we're going to get into a lot of what's going on in the Trump assassination story after we do some JFK stuff. And we didn't plan this, but the Matrix and the simulation worked in a weird way, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I'll stop yapping like 6 o'clock.
Yeah, where's that soundbite? As most of you know, who've been following along for a while, you know, we did a lot of work into James Herbert Martin many months back, which kind of led us down this path of looking at Marina post-assassination and what she was doing, where she was going, who she was with all the time. and there was lots of people vying for her attention and her drawers, among other things. But tonight we're going to start off looking at someone named was it John and Catherine?
Yeah, John and
Jacobs. Yes.
Yeah, John and Catherine Jacobs. Her
So
original
who were they?
name was-
Who were they, Carmine?
So John Kedzie Jacobs was in the military, and he served after Pearl Harbor. He was eventually, I believe, during the 1950s, transferred into the United States Information Agency, which was an arm of the intelligence community that did opinion research and more intelligence gathering and processing. It's not these weren't the James Bond spies. These weren't the people conducting clandestine activities. These were people in offices who were, doing analysis. And
Was this an agency, like a formal, real agency?
yeah, the United States Information Agency was created, I believe, during the 1950s, and he gained work there. Later, meeting his wife. His wife was actually Bulgarian, and her original name was Katia, and she came from a communist bloc country at the time, and married him, and they moved over. She changed her name to Catherine, and they basically settled into the Washington D.C. area, and made a good life for themselves, had some children, and with the average American, the run-of-the-mill, nice, middle-class, upper-class American family. And I had never heard of them until...
Was he an American? Or
Yeah, he was an American.
Okay.
American. But I had never heard of them.
Neither had I.
Me either.
Going through, like I told you, slowly but surely. It was funny, maybe 10 years ago now, people would ask me, so how far are you into the documents? Well, now I'm hundreds of thousands of files in. Slowly but surely. How do you eat a whale? One piece at a time.
Yeah, because when we looked into this thing, Carmine, we were really looking at what she was doing and who she was with, and James Martin, and I don't even think we came across this.
It was buried.
At the time.
It was buried in. And the USIA is so innocuous. Not many people even know that the United States Information Agency existed. So it was, it would have just been missed, or it would have been gone. It would have been, people are going to look for CIA, for FBI, for Secret Service.
Right.
Most of these, other secondary agencies that really never gained much renown, people don't know to look for. I didn't know to look for until I looked into the background. I found out more about them. And anyway, so I got into a document where I found out that Catherine, shortly after the assassination of President Kennedy, according to the Warren Commission, invited Marina Oswald to dinner. And that, there were other people that did that, as the Martins, Declan Ford.
Yeah, the Fords.
Yeah, the Ford. There are multiple people, and I'm sure there are others that we don't know about or weren't publicized, where she got a free meal and a gift, and they expressed how bad they felt for her, and
among other things.
Yeah, she did her. she did her grieving widow. Yeah, she did her grieving widow tour.
Yes,
and when. So I looked at that and I was like, well, that's strange. Why would an U.S. Intelligence Information Agency be inviting Marina Oswald to come and have dinner with them? I'm like,
yeah, that's weird.
That it reminded me of the context you talked about with the Martins, the Fords. It reminded me of, Sylvia Hyde Hokie, who was pumping Ruth Payne for information, her sister, while Marina lived with them. It reminded me of Priscilla Johnson, who moved in with her later to write a book and try to retell the story in a more commission-friendly way. So all these people seem to be, and they're either intelligence connected directly, or they're via the press intelligence connected.
Or one step away, right?
Yeah.
In the case of Ruth Payne or some of the other people, right?
Yeah. So, and just with Martin, that was allowed, that the Secret Service failed so utterly and allowed him to capitalize on the situation. Is just, there were a lot of people who want, some for money like Martin, but these people didn't have a financial interest. They would have an intelligence interest because he worked for an intelligence agency. And then I found out that he actually went to his bosses and briefed them before the meeting occurred. So lots
John
of people,
Jacobs?
yeah, he went and briefed his bosses in the Office of Security at the USIA to get the okay. So they knew. This isn't just some offhanded invitation. He got security clearance to have the widow there, and I'm sure to try to get information out of her. I mean, that is his job.
Well, it's interesting too, if like what we were looking into the Martins is if they were working for the CIA, which I think we did a good job of laying it out, that it's pretty, there's 99% chance that they were.
Well, we proved the wife. We proved Wanda was based on the documents last year.
Well, and if one of them is, then both of them effectively are,
right?
Because the other is serving as cover or is serving to gather information for the other, like Sylvia Hyde Hokie.
Yeah,
you can't say that her husband was just some guy if she's working for the CIA.
It's just interesting to me that if you have the CIA, basically babysitting her immediately after the assassination, that you have other intelligence agencies trying to do the same thing. You would think that either they would know or they would be told to back off or something. But yeah, this is interesting.
So
can
anyway,
I just say something?
Of course. Yeah.
I was just going to say, we've talked a lot on the show about interagency conflict, and when you think about the Jacobses reaching out to Marina, right? There could have been a few hands that were extended to Marina, and maybe if all of them or most of them were intelligence related, I'm going with all. So no matter who she chose, right? Because I didn't.
Yeah. All paths lead back to the government.
Right.
Yeah. She didn't trust the FBI, so she didn't want them around at all.
Well, based on Hoover's feelings about communists and people from communist countries, I have a feeling she had a reason not to want to trust.
I think she had a better opinion of the Secret Service, but I don't think they wanted anything to do with her.
Yep.
Well, at that point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Rob. I mean, they the Secret Service had a couple-hour taped interview per the documents with Marina at the Six Flags Motel. Obviously, James Herb Norton was the manager. This was
right. But they didn't want to long-term babysit her for months.
Well, who wants to? I mean, sorry to sound callous, but who wants to take a bullet for the assassin's wife?
Right.
I mean, that's effectively the assignment. That is perhaps one of the worst assignments you could have got.
Well, not just to protect her like that, but to get out of her what she knows. Because at this point in the investigation, you got to think that she may be an accomplice. I mean, she is his wife.
Yeah. Or knew something.
Or did she really know something that she's not saying? That maybe you get her all liquored up. And
that could be one of the
she gets loose lips.
Yeah. Well, maybe that might have been the intent of some of the attempts.
Right.
To try to get information out of her.
And especially, Rob, after the Walker letter was found, and I don't want to get into whether I think Lee wrote that, but after the Walker letter was found, the FBI interviews ramped up hugely. I believe that was December 2nd. I could be wrong. I'm doing it off of memory, but it's very fascinating. And
I just wanted to add, I don't want to divert from the main topic, but on my website, I have a search feature. You can just type in Walker letter. I actually found years ago a second Walker letter that the commission ignored that was sent after Oswald was in custody. So not to say that proves anything, but it shows you that Walker had other people threatening him still, and it could have been that person that sent the original note rather than Oswald. But there was at least someone while Oswald was in custody threatening Walker's life. And it can't be Oswald.
Right.
So, I mean, and we were discussing earlier just there's an alignment occurring right now, and I don't want to jump ahead to Trump but if you look, when a major historical event happens, which is what occurred last Saturday,
yes, sir,
then by the next day, things have just shot into 1,000 directions. New myths, new conspiracies, new facts, new misinformation, just swirling about, people trying to capitalize financially off of it, people trying to capitalize politically off of it.
100%. And it's kind of like the Joseph Miltier situation when he said they would pick up someone to throw off the public back then, right? These days, it's let's throw out a million different things on social media and have it pretty much impossible for the public to figure out. I think it's similar.
Yeah, and it's unfortunately bad actors on a lot of sides. Political bad actors, just people in the public who enjoy misinforming people. No matter how you feel about him, I'm sorry to say, but Alex Jones was a misinformation agent. Ultimately, if you look at the entire body of everything he put out there, he didn't really add to what we know about the facts.
Yeah, if you throw 1,000 darts at the dartboard, some of them are going to hit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you can be right about a couple things and still be wrong about most things.
Exactly.
And not just to say just him. There's, unfortunately, I wouldn't say Rachel Maddow's too far off. If you've tuned into her show recently, talking about Lord of the Rings and the far right.
Yeah.
So, that's unfortunately the climate we're in. And I think that, I'll get into that later. Anyway, the Jacobs.
Yeah.
So essentially the most important thing, in my opinion, about the Jacobs is the commission reported that Katia sent her the invite to dinner, which she attended with Martin, interestingly. And we talked a little bit earlier about that, and I agree with Joe that, and I think Grob agrees, that Martin was likely there to protect his investment.
Yeah,
he did
not golden
want
goose.
Yeah, he did not want her making friends with people and possible other arrangements.
Because this was, if we can put it, this is the night that they slept together for the first time. If I'm correct, is that right? Did this happen February 7th?
Let me see.
It would be within. I'm not sure if that's the exact night, but it would be within a day or two.
I remember that because that's my birthday.
Oh,
and so that fact stuck with me because
I know that. It was February 1960, February 6th, the day before.
Well, it bled over into the 7th.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Midnight.
True. Well, I guess, yeah. So the day.
So
either,
after going out to eat with all them and getting her all liquored up and getting back to the hotel, it would have been the 7th. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Well, it doesn't make much difference. 24 hours. Within 24 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, you have the Marina statements that say she was taking a nap and she woke up and John Martin Thorne had placed a vodka bottle on the glass next to her bedside table at the hotel and started taking pictures, and she woke up.
Drink up, sweetie.
That's in the documents. So you really, it's fascinating to figure out what they were trying to do.
Well, I know what they were trying to do.
Well, right.
You know what they did.
But
if only that movie existed somewhere, Joe.
No, compromising photos and movies. I mean, that's classic blackmail material, and it's also an intelligence.
Exactly.
It's that's an intelligence trick of the trade.
Yeah.
That's why they call it leverage traps. Yeah. You leverage on people.
Think Epstein, if she for some reason didn't go along with what she needed to say at the Warren Commission, that could have been used to discredit her, right? Oh, she was drunk.
When it actually would have mattered. Now it might actually get her a claim, but then, it would have destroyed her public reputation.
So we agree that. So James Herbert Martin, or let me back up. Marina responded to
Catherine Jacobs.
Right, and I think it's important to note that she was from the Russian bloc at the time. So,
and I think that's another. That is another. I'm from a Russian bloc country. You lived in the Soviet Union. It's just another way to garner her attention.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And I don't think they knew at that point when she sent that letter to Marina, that Marina would have moved in with James Herbert Martin. But obviously, she had a lot of friends in the white Russian community in Dallas and around.
And the others,
the Fords, exactly like you had mentioned earlier. So she felt very similar or safe there, and I don't think she would have felt safe bringing her kids to D.C. at that point. But why would, James Herbert Martin, she would have replied at his house in December, right? She would have sent the mail out at the house. And you would think, as her kind of unofficial babysitter, James and Wanda, they would have known about this. And I think it was protecting his investment or a possible backup plan. It's fascinating to consider.
Well, and it can also be what you suggested earlier, that this could have been interdepartmental rivalry. Maybe they were competing to control her. Because, it's funny that people think that the government is some sort of universally cooperative group. It's not.
No.
Every department has its own desires. Every department has its own budget to look after. Every department has its own interest to look after, and no one wants to see power anywhere. Just for instance, and this goes way back, but during the 40s and the 50s, it took nearly forever to create the CIA. But it had to go from OSS to this Special Services Unit to the Central Intelligence Group to finally the CIA.
Creation.
Yeah, and it was just arguments. It was I've read some of the accounts of the Joint Chiefs arguing with the various CIA directors, arguing with the various Department of State leaders, arguing with the various other governmental entities. So they all wanted control of her at this point. At this point, she is a historical figure.
Because at this point, Carmine, so you have the CIA, you have whatever the hell this thing was called again.
The United States Information Agency.
Information Agency. You had the DIA, you had the NSA, and God knows how many other intelligence apparatus, whether officially governmental or not, trying to reach out or protect their interests per se. Mm-hmm. So what exactly was the offer from the Jacobs to Marina?
Yeah, like I was saying, the biggest point and the thing that made me write the article was the commission published that she was invited to dinner, and that was the end of it. Now, whether it was the true information was deprived from the commission, which is a possibility, or that the commission didn't like the implications of what the full offer entailed, that's another possibility. But the Jacobs, Catherine didn't just invite her to dinner, she invited Marina to move in. And that would have been a direct challenge to Martin and to all the other groups that might have been trying to monitor her. Or it could have just been another attempt, another way to secure her, to put her in a place where she could be observed by an actual agent who lived there.
Aside from Wanda.
Yeah. Another agent. Yeah.
And did they have, you said they had children too as well, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, they had 3 kids.
And how old would their kids have been at this time?
They were younger. I don't have their exact age, but I believe around 10 and less. So they were younger kids. It was like I said, they're
kind of like the Martins,
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're all run of the mill, suburban families. It seems, or at least they wanted to appear.
Yeah.
And they all wanted her to move in, which to me it blows my mind that it happened once, but that it happened multiple times with multiple families and multiple intelligence groups. Yeah. Shows us that this is not just a random occurrence. It could be that the surveillance operation that had been launched against Lee Harvey Oswald did not end when he died because they thought there might be more to it and they needed information from her, so it was just transferred to Marina.
Right.
To just reassess the information, move their assets.
Or if Oswald had been in contact with any intelligence agencies, which is a possibility, and maybe Marina knew it, that to make sure that she didn't let that cat out of the bag.
Yeah, there's a a number of possibilities, but certainly it's not a coincidence. And how many people have to surround someone from intelligence groups until you have an intelligence net where you're trying to do something, whether it's gather intelligence, motivate them to do certain things, keep them in line.
Very, very interesting. I love the Kennedy assassination. I mean, there's always something new that you can learn and a new rabbit hole to jump down, you know?
Well, and imagine now, I mean, we're 60 years out. Think of all the releases and all the evidence and all the information. There isn't a piece, and you know me, I scoured hard. There isn't a piece of primary evidence yet released by officials. We don't have a police report. We don't have, they are keeping this because they understand this is JFK, but he lived. Essentially, Donald Trump lived.
Right.
But the circumstances are almost exact. The security, we'll go into it. The security failures. The shooter is, in my opinion, totally different. This guy actually, well, I'll get into it. But
yeah.
Do you want to say anything more about the Jacobs, or you want to move on to?
Yeah, I think we covered him pretty good. We can get into.
Yeah. I just want to say,
Trump
Rob.
Thing. Yeah.
That must have been Carmine. That must have been a hella awkward dinner. If you think Marina, James Martin, the Jacobs, maybe a couple of the Jacobs kids,
his hand under the table on her leg, squeezing,
and after they just had sex, maybe he's, James Martin was really into Marina, for sure, based on a lot.
She had that good Joe. That's why.
Yeah, she said. I came over a document where she was dreaming of him. I think she told Catherine Ford that. So he must have done a good job at the Willard, but it's just fascinating to think like
maybe he had a 10-inch penis like Thomas Crooks.
Right. Yeah.
Allegedly.
So I thought it was a great article. I didn't know about the Jacobses either. It's just fascinating to think of the different
how many other extra elements.
Rivalry. Yeah, and I think it is the interagency rivalry. Some agencies would put their people out, try to get it. And Rob and I have argued a long time off the record here between and trying to figure out who James Herbert Martin was working for. And we still don't know. We have a really good idea based on his wife and the document we found, but it's not conclusive, and we have argued it back and forth very objectively. And this information gives an extra added aspect to it. So I thought it was a great article, and definitely, if you haven't read it yet, check that out, people in the audience. So,
all right, so let's get into a little bit about Donald Trump. Now, apparently, when Trump was president, and it came time for him to be in charge of, the JFK Act releases, and I don't know the exact quote. Maybe one of y'all do, but there was a reason that he said he could not, or he did not okay the release of the rest of the files. Yeah. Basically, that he saw them and basically said that the general public is not ready for this kind of truth yet, or something along those lines.
Yep. I
which
believe
is interesting.
Rob, I believe he told Andrew Napolitano, that judge. He said, if you saw what I saw in the JFK files, you wouldn't release them either, type of thing.
Right.
And the assumption is Pompeo, who was obviously a former CIA director, helped convince Trump not to release them, is what I understand of it. But I'm sorry to cut you off, sir.
Oh, no. So it's interesting, that if that's a true statement by Trump, and I don't see him, BSing about something like that, then hopefully if he becomes president again, he'll release everything, which will be
that'd be nice.
Yeah,
that'd be nice for him to finally fulfill the requirements from 20 years ago.
Yeah, or somebody just shoved the paper in front of Joe and say, "Here, sign this, dude." And,
Yeah, I have a feeling Biden might not have read them quite as closely.
Yeah. But of course, it's pretty easy to control that dude.
And it would be the perfect time, Rob, to release these documents, the JFK documents, as everyone's focusing.
His viewpoint may have
take
changed a
advantage
little
of it.
bit.
Yeah,
release them. Only nerds like us are going to go through it, and who cares?
Well, and honestly, I mean, as I'll get into when I have a little bit of me. I like to try to set up a little bit, so I have a little bit of background about the rising tide of violence. That I mean, people seem to think that this happened in some sort of bubble. That just this guy, and it just this assassins are built.
Yeah, well, like I said in the last show, it's. I wish I could say that I'm surprised about what happened, but honestly, the way things were going when he was president and when he's running again, I'm not surprised. They've tried everything to expose Donald Trump, do away with Donald Trump, other than actually pointing a bullet at him. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, and I think that the problem is one of the there's so many problems, but I think one of the problems is that, see, I am one of the people who never watched The Apprentice. So I have no real feelings on him. I don't, besides Home Alone 2, where he made a cameo, besides that, and see, I'm one of the people that still remembers when he would glad hand with Joe Scarborough, who now decries him, when he would glad hand with the Clintons, who now decry him.
And Oprah.
That all these people ran in the same circles for decades before they suddenly became enemies. So I have some doubts about their real motivations and that they really believe what they're saying about each other.
Yeah, I just like the fact that he's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Well, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Is that so? I never had strong feelings, and I still don't have strong feelings one way or the other about him. So I have never suffered this problem that some people seem to have, and the media certainly. Like I told my friends, and unfortunately, of course it couldn't stay that way, but 3 days before the assassination attempt was the first time in maybe 3 or 4 years I had gone to Google News and his name wasn't in the top 5 headlines. There was finally a day where...
Yeah, I wanted to mention something like that because I was watching something this morning, and it was interesting because somebody was showing these headlines from the left-leaning media after the assassination attempt that says Trump fell to his knees, or he fell down hard, but they refused to say that it was an assassination attempt. It was.
Oh yeah, no, I saw. I actually mentioned to my wife. I said, "What did they think? He was a volunteer sniper, and he dropped his rifle, and an accidental shot barrage went off." Yeah,
it's interesting that they wouldn't even say that because it would garner Trump. Yeah,
the political implications that they are suffering because for so long. I mean, that's the cost. If you preach violence and you preach political hatred, what do you think is going to happen if you raise a generation on that? People like this are going to emerge.
A lot more examples have come out, this week from, especially like CNN and things like that, and the guests they have on there that's saying Trump needs to be eliminated. Trump is a threat,
existential threat,
terrorist threat.
I mean, using words like
country.
No, terrorism.
He needs to have a bullseye on him and all this stuff. Yeah.
Okay. You ready?
And then they're surprised when something happens. Yes. Let's dive into it.
Try to give some background. Let's do it. And hopefully this.
I'm very interested into your insights on this, Carmine. So yes. I pray continue, sir.
Okay. So as Rob said, I'm not surprised such an event happened. It was a matter of time. But we've seen a rise in public shootings and demonization in U.S. politics. And certain elements in our society have in concert brought us to this point in history. A rise. We have the rise in violence. We have isolation. We have increased mental illness and hyperpartisanship. And it all feeds into cycles of violence. A 2023 Pew Research poll noted that significant increases in gun death percentages within the last 5 years. As I prior discussed with Rob and off the air and featured in my book, Human Time Bomb, most data in 2019 indicated we were about to see a giant increase in hyperpartisan political unrest, technological isolation, and rising public violence. The unexpected factor in the equation was the coronavirus, and that just enhanced all the worst elements of the social equation. The center states by 2021, a record 23% national increase in gun deaths had occurred since 2019. This increase consisted of a 45% rise in murders and a 10% rise in suicide rates, accompanied by additional reports of rampant mental illness due to extended periods of isolation, fear, and other contributing factors. Perhaps the worst effect was on the youngest people, with citizens under the age of 18 having a 50% increase in gun deaths amid the same period. We've all observed the marked rise in public shootings, namely school shootings, and these numbers are not decreasing but have consistently risen. The Federal Bureau of Investigation noted 3 active public shooter incidents during the year 2000, and by 2021 the figure had increased to 61 incidents. That's a 95% increase in public shootings within the past 2 decades.
That's a lot.
Yeah. They're grim facts. Yeah, they're grim facts, but I think they offer us a view into the mindset of the shooter, those praising him, and what hyperbolic political climate is currently surrounding us. And I fear unless significant changes are made, we haven't seen the last, but merely the first major event in a
Well, I think you can
cycle.
make a case, Carmine, too, that a lot of these school shooters, these lone wolf shooters, or there's maybe a little more to the story.
Oh yeah.
Like for Columbine, for instance, there's a lot of things out there that go against the official story.
I think there's common elements too.
Shootings.
Yeah. I'm talking about as far as the modern school shooters. I think there's common elements that are consistently overlooked. You know what I mean? Like
when
they all display warning signs years before they actually go to do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't even have thought about this, like when we were growing up and going to high
school.
Yeah, like
even violence,
the late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah, like hitting the teacher or hitting a principal. Wouldn't have even
or cussing them out.
Wouldn't have crossed
craziness.
Well, and that's another part of it. And unfortunately,
it's a TikTok viral society.
People can raise their children however they want, but if you raise them without consequence or the understanding of consequence, then they're going to go into the world and learn consequences.
Yeah, we call that FAFO. Fuck around and find out.
Yeah. And it's common sense isn't quite so common anymore, it appears.
Yeah, people, even the young kids now, they know not to mess with Generation X because we don't play. Play.
And to go into the another, like I said, I think this is just unfortunately the beginning, which is why we need to try to head off a continuation. But the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security, 2 days after Trump was shot, issued warnings about, quote, retaliatory acts of violence to this assassination.
Right. I mean,
that's what I'm worried about.
I think if it would have been a successful attempt,
it could have.
That would definitely happen.
I would like personally to see that whatever studio put out that movie, Civil War, bankrupt. Because they are
just
a
horrible fucking
perfect
movie, by the
example. But it's a perfect example of scum trying to make money on the back of political unrest, just fueling the flames so they can make a couple of bucks at the box office. And I'm glad. Hopefully it tanked.
It did.
Good.
It sucked. It was a horrible movie. I wasted my money. And it's thank God it wasn't a great movie that attracted a lot more eyeballs on it. But something like that, and you can translate this into like The Walking Dead, any of these greatly apocalyptic futures.
You can't beat early Walking Dead. Excuse me. Sorry, Carmine.
So if you'd like, now I'm going to try, like I told Joe and Rob, I spent some time trying to acquire sources from across the spectrum, finding the points of agreement, what facts we can actually put together, and actually try to put a picture that I don't understand why the mainstream media hasn't been able to put together yet. But try to put a picture together of the shooter, the security failures, even the aftermath. So we
Yes.
know what probably happened and why he did the things he did and what he did, because most of the major media sources even don't have a working timeline going. So a couple do, but most of
Yeah.
them don't have key events. Anyway, so Thomas Matthew Crooks was born and raised in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania during the fall of 2003. He grew up in the age of political hyperbole and rapidly increasing public incidents of gun violence. The modern 24-hour press cycle provided him a constant diet of violence, fear-mongering, and politically divisive content. He graduated from a local high school where he excelled in math amidst 2022, yet Crooks, while in high school, was banned from the Bethel Park High School's rifle team because of his poor aim and was considered a danger to others. His classmates had starkly different memories of him. Some described him as intelligent, quiet, and adored by his teachers. Others stated he was bullied nearly every day and ridiculed for wearing hunting clothes as he sat alone at lunch.
Well, on that note, Carmine, I did see an interview with his guidance counselor, and his guidance counselor is a guy named Knapp, Knapp, and he basically said that it's not true that this kid was bullied on a daily basis. You know, he said at one point that he had a group of boys of friends of his, maybe 5 or 6. Like in the 10th grade, he saw this kid eating by himself in the lunchroom, and he went over and offered, hey, do you want me to sit with you? Do you need somebody to talk to? He's like, no, I'm good. I'm just playing on my phone. And his junior and senior year, he was actually able to eat lunch with his group of friends, and he said, there's no way that this kid was being bullied, because if he was, I would have known about it and put a stop to it. The school wasn't like that big where this kid's getting lost. Because he was
And
actually
I think
a smart
potentially,
kid.
yeah.
He was a smart kid, AP kid. But yeah, go ahead, Carmine.
Well, I'm going to say, and maybe that's Guy's view of this guy, but that's not the definitive view of him. Because if you look at the dozen, I think the FBI has interviewed 100 so far, but if you look at the dozen or more witnesses you can get from various news outlets, it's conflicting.
Yeah.
There is no one story about this guy. He might have known him to have friends, and that's fine. He had friends, but apparently sometimes he sat alone, and he was the worst shot anyone had ever seen, according to at least a dozen people. And he wore hunting clothes.
Was he shooting at other people's targets?
Which could only increase someone. If you're the worst shot in the world and you wear hunting clothes to school, you're going to get teased. It's going to happen. That's great that the guidance counselor didn't see it happen, but I'm sorry. I remember
if you're 6'4", Carmine, and you have a 10-inch thong, you got to hide that silhouette down there somehow. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean?
You need to wear camouflage pants. Okay?
My thing is, it can all be true still. You know what I mean? He might have been teased at some points, and maybe he had friends at some points. We all had,
Yeah, but it wasn't like this kid was getting his ass beat every day.
Oh, no. I know. I just think that it makes total sense that you would be teased over being a horrible shot and you wear hunting clothes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It makes total sense.
Do we know that his family, like was his dad a hunter? Because I know the rifle was supposedly
he had a gun
his
collection. He had a gun collection.
But was he a hunter, like an avid hunter?
I don't.
We don't know
details,
that.
Yeah, I think the family is being very quiet because later on I'll go into the exact time it happened. But a couple hours before the shooting occurred, they called the police with a welfare report about him.
Oh, really?
So I think they knew he was armed. They knew Trump was in the area and were coming to understand what was about to happen.
And I heard his parents were Trump supporters.
But we don't know what they said.
Allegedly.
They said they were concerned. I heard that report too, Carmine. I saw it. A couple major media outlets reported that, but I'm not sure if they stated what exactly they were concerned about. Of course, you could make.
Oh, yeah. No, it could have been a general welfare, but even that they did that should have alerted the security or should have alerted someone at the police that perhaps you might want to check the local event.
Yeah.
Where a major political figure was showing up. Mm-hmm. At least to check out, to make sure, because if he's a danger to himself, even make sure he's okay. Just find out where he is. And had that happen,
Well, put him on a list, and if he's
had
suspicious,
somebody
hey,
called,
check him out. Yeah.
Yeah, had local police called about that welfare check to the police that were at the event, it might have registered that the guy who just walked in and started walking around was the person that they had called about. But anyway, okay, so.
Yeah. Oh, I want to address something really quickly
Mhm.
from a commenter, and it says it's about the Black Rock video that the guy was in, right? You obviously, Carmine, I'm sure you've seen it. And very quickly, he appears in the Black Rock whatever video, and
propaganda video.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, and people are going to call me like a woke something for this, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. He was in AP classes. You think BlackRock would probably record those classes over other classes? And
well, that's what the teacher taught. He taught AP math or science or whatever.
I don't think that necessarily just his
well, that's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. It doesn't necessarily prove anything at all, because even if you think it's a deep state BlackRock conspiracy, why would you put him in the video? It doesn't add up, right?
No.
Like,
I just think it's interesting. Somebody found him in that video, you know?
Well, another
thing crazy.
Another thing too that I think supports that he did endure some sort of torment at high school was he had no social media.
Yeah.
So either somebody purged his social media, it was suppressed by officials, or he was experiencing some bullying and decided he didn't want more online and just didn't make accounts.
Yeah, or he just thought it was stupid. And some of these hyper intelligent people like that, even to this day, like people I went to school with that are very, very smart, they do not have any social media. You know, I go to look for friends that I went to high school with.
Yeah.
That were very, very smart. Not even a Facebook page. You know, it's like, that's weird. I mean, I know this guy was successful. I know he's super smart. He's got a family, but
it's a way to maintain
presence online.
It's a way to maintain your privacy.
Yeah, some people just aren't. They just don't give a shit about social media. You know,
I just think that you know, whether I don't think it has to be one or the other. I think that he could have eventually had friends and eventually been more popular, and maybe he went through a period where he wasn't so popular. But you certainly don't want to be known as the worst shot in town. Yeah. Nobody wants to be the worst at anything.
Well, I'm just wondering why this kid didn't go off to college somewhere.
Well,
you know what I mean?
He did.
Rob, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to say this kid is in AP classes, very smart.
He could have got into like Stanford or whatever.
He went to community college.
Right.
So, but he could have gone to a real college.
Oh yeah.
Like,
well, he turned it down. So I think
exactly
that also
that's the reason. Like, why would he do that when you can go to a different school and have a new life where nobody knows you?
Well, I think by that point he already had his plan in his head. I think this plan was months in advance, because from more of the later reports, they looked into the FBI searched his internet searches, and he was following Trump events since early spring.
Yeah, but he was 20. I mean, he could have went to college like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago.
Oh no!
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. No, he could have right after. Honestly, maybe he just wanted to stay local. I mean, you know, he went to the local community college instead.
And I think there's something to say for, and at that age, I have lived with my parents before. You can get isolated, right? You can drift apart from your friends, and it wasn't really the social media age it is now, but if you can kind of isolate yourself with your whatever views you want, really. And he seemed, I don't know if there were reports he searched Biden and other people, and he just hated
Pelosi, Biden, McConnell. But Trump was the one he decided to really devote attention to.
It's just odd that some kid at his age, this is what he's interested in. You know what I mean?
Like you said, the hyper intelligent and obsessive.
He should have been on.
You know, I really think. Like, I'll get into it more, but I think that rifle club incident was the beginning of a path that he went on. I think that he got it into his mind that he was not going to be remembered as the worst shot ever. And I think that affected his actions. And I think this was a methodical. He got an engineering degree from a local community college, so he wasn't foolish. He was all about planning. That's engineering.
Right.
He was taking every step he could to make sure that the perfect shot could be delivered.
Range with a rangefinder, a golf rangefinder.
So yeah,
which if you don't,
let's
play
entertain
golf,
this scenario real quick, okay?
Yeah.
Say this event had legitimate security perimeters.
Yeah, he would have never.
He would never.
I'll get into that. Yeah, he would have never got near.
Close
He'd
to
have
that
been arrested.
building.
As soon as he
Then
walked
what
in
do
with
you
the
do?
rangefinder, he should have been taken into custody.
Right.
As soon as you walk in, he had it in his hand. Yeah.
And then his name would have been flagged by the local authorities because his parents had reported
Yep,
him missing
and that
or
would have
whatever.
been the end of this. Yeah.
And
That would have been the end.
Wow.
Okay, so I'll knock out the rest of this and I'll get into the timeline because we're getting into the event. So
sorry.
So he worked in a nursing home kitchen and graduated earlier in the year with a degree in engineering from the Community College of Allegheny. Interestingly, he had no disciplinary record, prior arrests, no sign of obvious mental illness or propensity for violence.
You say he worked in a nursing home?
Yep, he worked in a nursing home kitchen.
Do you want to know something really funny in the JFK community?
That's a horrible job, by the way.
Yeah.
Vince Palomara's mother, who has since passed away, I heard this in the past week, was at that nursing home.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Of course, Vince Palomara is a Secret Service expert in the JFK.
He lives in the same town as
that's exactly
in
right.
Bethel Park.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry.
Oh, it's fine. So Crooks was a member of the local Clareton Sportsman's Club where he practiced shooting for at least 1 year prior to the events of last weekend. The club had targets extending to 171 yards, over 30 yards farther than the distance from which he fired at Donald Trump. According to one media report, an official told them, quote, Crooks apparently tracked Trump's movements from as far back as spring using the internet. This would certainly support premeditation, and that he waited until Trump made a visit to a more accessible location before he could set his plan into motion. At some point before Trump campaign events were announced, he crafted 2 improvised explosive devices that could be detonated using a radio transmitter. Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024, local media reports Trump will be holding a rally at the Butler Farm Showgrounds. This provides over a week for the shooter to survey the area, acquire necessary equipment, and the suspect is already well practiced. A year or more of solid practice, including just before the event itself, would suggest that Crooks' aim had improved since high school. He at least had a quality weapon and sighting equipment that would make it more difficult to miss. Crooks later requests that his employer give him the day off the day of the campaign event, and was obliged. Friday, July 12th, 2024. Thomas practiced one final time at his gun club. The next morning, he borrowed an AR-15 style rifle from his father's weapon collection and left the Crooks family home. He drove first to Home Depot and bought a 5-foot ladder. Thus, he may have already known the height of the buildings at the crime scene. And using a small ladder was more portable and unlikely to be noticed. The attempted assassin went to Allegheny Arms and Gun Works and purchased 50 rounds of ammunition for the rifle. He already had 50 rounds. Just as a side note.
Optimistic.
So I think that Trump he was planning a massacre. You don't bring 100 rounds to kill one person.
Right. What you said, Carmine, there was interesting because apparently this is not the rifle that he practiced with. He had just borrowed this rifle from his parents' house that morning.
Well, I think.
Do we know if he shot with that rifle?
Yeah, he practiced with that rifle before.
He did. Okay.
Yeah. His father had lent it to him. That's why it wasn't a question. Because right now the parents and the media are kind of going back and forth on whether or not they knew. They knew. Yeah, because according to the first reports, the father let him borrow his AR-15 style rifle.
It was the first time that he had shot this rifle. That's because we don't know.
Yeah,
how familiar he was with it, if it was sighted in and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it was. This was a rifle that he had practiced with prior. So I assume he's an engineer. I'm going to guess he didn't decide to switch rifles on the day of. Right. That he probably used a rifle he had already sighted in. If he had gone through the trouble. Another thing is the explosives that he created. He ordered the material through a fake name. Because the company that made the fireworks company that was responsible for the detonators and some of the other components checked all of their sales records, and none could be found in his name. So he certainly.
Also, Pennsylvania is a state where you can buy like fireworks, where most of the time that stuff is illegal.
Yeah,
in a lot of other states to own, and I'm talking
because it's so easy to make bombs. Yeah.
Legit stuff, like stuff that goes boom, big, giant fireworks, like professional style, quarter sticks of dynamite, stuff like that. So
I assume the weapon he used the day of was the weapon he used the day before.
Yeah, okay.
He didn't decide to just switch up weapons. This was the one he used for a year. This was the one he was
yeah. And so one thing I just want to interrupt. So the 5-foot ladder that he allegedly bought at Home Depot, we have a question on this in the chat. The 5-foot ladder wasn't tall enough, so if you realize it was too small, did he use another ladder that was there?
Well, let me bust a myth real quick, if I may, about this goddamn 5-foot ladder. Okay, so. Even last week, we got derailed on this ladder because it definitely didn't look like a 5-foot ladder. Okay.
No. Well, it could have been an extension ladder.
But I found a picture where there is a 5-foot ladder, and it was explained that the 10-foot ladder or whatever it was placed there by the cop that was trying to get up to the roof. Here's a picture of where he placed the 5-foot ladder, folks. Let's see if we can see it here. Okay, where it says shooter ladder. Okay, down here, there is like a little outbuilding. Okay, where he could have climbed up on top. Then the 5-foot ladder is placed from the top of this little shed building up to the roof.
So he had likely assessed the area before this.
Yeah, if you see where it says SWAT ladder, that is where the ladder was placed, the real tall one. So there is a smaller ladder. I don't know why it says Saddam Hussein is hiding in this little shed. I did not make this. I did not make this graphic, folks.
But it explains how he was able to access.
Explains how he got up on the roof. So right there's the little 5-foot ladder on top of this shed. He probably climbed up on top of that little overhang and then up to the roof.
But it makes sense to do that because, like I said, portability and concealability. If you're carrying a little 5-foot ladder, the average person is not going to bother you. There's lots of construction going on for the event. A 5-foot ladder is not going to draw a lot of attention.
Well,
but if you got a big 20-foot extension painting crew ladder, you're going to draw some attention to yourself.
Yeah, but a random dude just carrying a ladder at an event like that it
is strange, but not as strange as like a huge one.
Right. Like if he had on like a high-vis vest or a hard hat or something, a little disguise. I mean,
he could have gone a little bit farther to it, to attempt
other than just toting a rifle and a fucking
but honestly,
ladder around.
Looking at what occurred, he actually did way more than he needed to get through the security, because the security, as we shall see, was rather porous. In some
they called it like the Pac-Man security perimeter because it was instead of being a full circle, it was like a Pac-Man's mouth was this cut-out piece that went around this building.
Yeah, the air
into the event, and it makes no sense whatsoever.
So, the ladder, I'm glad you explained the ladder so people don't focus on that too much.
Yes, I just wanted to bust that myth about the ladder and all that. So he did have a 5-foot ladder. He did use it. The big ladder is something else. That's what the
the SWAT team tried to climb up and then they dove for cover when he aimed at them.
Exactly.
So by that afternoon, Crooks had, as I said, installed the 2 homemade bombs in his vehicle, which could be detonated by a transmitter. He later parked. This is something I haven't seen covered in a lot of places. He parked his car at a local gas station a third of a mile away from the event site and walked to the location. While officials had doubts about the viability of the devices being used with success, the intent is clear and lethal. If the devices were successful, they might have ignited the pump's fumes or ruptured the gas station's tanks and triggered a huge blast.
What was the chatter about him having a van then?
Yeah, no, he had a Sonata. It was a little car.
Because this vehicle was seen being towed away from the event, and everybody just thought it was his.
No. Yeah, he had a Hyundai or like a little compact car.
Okay, all right.
And that's what he put the explosives in.
And real quick, while we're on this whole van kick,
Mhm.
I saw this conspiracy theory that I wanted to bust real quick, because somebody said, they saw this van being pulled away. Whose van is this, right? And then they pulled this up. The whole. Remember this guy, Joe? Was it Vince Fusca?
Vince Fusca or something, the JFK Jr. guy. Yeah.
They show him holding up pictures of a white van, okay, behind Trump speaking. Now that's pretty weird, right?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So what? I mean, we're getting into Roger Craig, green car areas.
Right. People try to say that this guy is JFK Jr. or Q or stuff like that. But now,
remember when QAnon went away? That was so nice. Let's just leave it. Let's go away again. Go away. We're done.
Well,
thank you. It was
the picture I just showed you from this one, right?
Yeah.
Is not from the assassination attempt. It is actually from, I think it was 19. No, not 19. 20. Jesus. It was when he was running for president the first time with Pence. Okay. So, because you can see this dude right here behind Melania's head, right? And he's holding up the pictures of this van. Well, it turns out Vince Fusca has a van that is decked out for Trump. I mean, it's got Trump painted all over. It's got all these signs.
Yeah.
He was promoting pictures, trying to show Trump pictures of his van. Like, I support you, dude. So that's one conspiracy theory that we can put to rest. I'm glad
put that with a ladder.
Yeah, we'll debunk that with the ladder. So, pray continue, Carmine.
We're going to have to do Trump myth shows.
Well, actually,
I'm trying to bust some of them here, brother.
Oh, man. Okay, so let me go on.
Wait, Carmine, before you continue,
yeah.
I have a question, and I talked to Rob about this off air. So, say the win was different or the shooter had more skills.
I don't think it was that. I really do think it was.
Say Trump didn't turn his head.
It was chance. It was total chance.
No, I agree.
Because he had taken so many steps and preparations to make that perfect shot. It was total chance that Trump turned his head, and that totally screwed the trajectory.
Oh, I agree. But I'm saying, would you, being as experienced you are in political assassinations, would you? I mean, and this is not like a pro-Trump, negative Trump, but would you be a Trump assassination researcher? And I thought of this myself, and I was like, would I? And the answer is probably yeah.
I would, but I wouldn't. See, here's the problem. This is what I like to tell the people who like to research 9/11. You're never going to live to see the documents. Unless Trump himself forces a release. They're never going to let those documents out until the required 50 to 75 year period for historical documents under the law. So you're just going to be guessing most of the time. You'll have media reports, and like tonight I'm using media reports because that's all we have. I would use primary sources if we had the files, but we don't. So we have to go off of what the most amount of witnesses say. We have to go off with the points of agreement between the stories, that stuff. But that's I would try to investigate it, but who knows? I mean, as you know, I've sent letters to various intelligence agencies and made requests to NARA. So
there's a FOIA request for you.
But I would love to think, no matter who wins, and I'm an independent, I really don't care for either candidate, but if Trump wins, I would think, engender a lot of support by releasing all the information about his attempt and JFK. Because that's all information that the American people need to know. We need to know the truth about... Okay, so let me jump back into this. Let's try to get some more facts out there.
Yes.
So he practiced at his gun. Okay. At some point, hours prior to the shooting, his parents contact local police and state that he was missing. They were concerned about his welfare. Yet they reportedly knew he was armed, and that suggests it might not have just been about his welfare. At 3 p.m., Crooks went to the Trump event at Butler Farm and was stopped when a metal detector located a rangefinder, a piece of hunting and golfing equipment used for setting up the trajectory of long-distance shots. He was openly carrying in his hand.
Well, here's your flag.
Yeah. That's the
Why
first
did they
time.
let him in?
That's
My
the first
God.
time. Yeah. He's allowed to enter.
It's my monocular.
Yeah.
I want to see Trump with it.
Exactly.
Wait, did he enter?
Yeah, he entered carrying it in his hand, according to reports.
With a ladder.
And some of the people, try to make excuses for the thing. They're like, well, there's people that show up outside the events with guns and they have like gun equipment and stuff. So it's so what? It's okay? No, it's not okay. Right. Then you stay outside the perimeter, pal. If you're going to carry that around, what do you need a trajectory finder for?
Constitutional right to carry my firearm on my hip.
And people say, well, I actually saw some people also trying to make excuses. They said, well, for the insurance that's carried by the venue and the legal liability, we don't want to get sued for violating. The police can hold you for 48 hours just if they suspect anything. Just probable cause is all they need, and they can hold you for 48 hours.
Better to err
so
on
none
the
of
side
that,
of
none of those
caution
excuses
apply.
Like this. Yeah, this was the first warning that they ignored. So he's allowed to enter. He's feasibly staking out the crime scene, locating security positions, and the grounds to prepare a shot. These are not the acts of an erratic mind. Crooks is being methodical, performing basic counter surveillance to assure the position he selected is the best one possible and has a rangefinder to aid in his attack. One security official, one of the snipers, actually noticed him observing security positions until he departed the perimeter, but never stopped him for questioning. One of the snipers actually reported to another officer, "This guy's looking at us." What?
Yeah, and this guy's going to climb up on the building that they're inside of.
But okay, so he got through with the rangefinder. You don't do anything. One of the snipers sees him looking at the security positions through the rangefinder. Like he was looking at the rangefinder, and the guy was looking through the scope, looking at him through the rangefinder.
Hi.
Number 2, no problem. They let him leave, unhampered. So this was
lost them.
Yeah, this was the first series of notable official mistakes by local police and Secret Service agents. Further, it was a clue that his intentions were not just to attend the event. He does not require a rangefinder to attend a political rally. Since he was not at a hunting or golfing convention, it should have been held until he departed or confiscated. Authorities can hold like I said, they can hold anyone for arrest. Anyway. So then he leaves for a time. This was another indicator that his interests were not in the event itself. If he wanted to attend, he would have stayed to watch Trump. Instead, he just walked around and left hours before the speech had begun. They didn't follow. Why follow him? He's just got a rangefinder. He's just looking at all the security positions. Okay. So just after 5 p.m., Crooks appears on video footage walking near the AGR building, which he selected to use as his firing point. At 5:45 p.m., a local Beaver County EMS unit observes Crooks surveying the roof of the AGR building. 10 minutes later, police assigned to the inside of the AGR building warned the Secret Service about, quote, a suspicious person with a rangefinder and backpack. One might think it would ring a bell, since perimeter security had watched a man less than 2 hours prior with a rangefinder walking around the event. This unknown individual is deemed a security threat. Then, at 5:45, Trump takes the stage at 6:05. Police radioed it in and sent a picture of Crooks to federal officials. He, according to reports, made 3 trips back and forth, but was never stopped by anyone. Those potentially were to make sure the area was clear, move the ladder into position, and bring his weapon to the AGR building. Officials, despite the repeated mentions and notifications of security threats, decide to move forward, and former President Trump would take the stage at 6:05 p.m. Subsequently, members of the crowd, and this is so Kennedy-esque, begin to report to authorities that they observe a man climbing a building with a rifle nearby. So this is before anything's happened. They're getting reports from the crowd. Now, in position with a weapon, bulletproof vest, 100 rounds of ammunition, and his radio transmitter, Crooks begins to set his plan into motion. Local police attempt to climb the ladder just before he fired. In response, Crooks brandishes his weapon and they take cover. 4 minutes after Donald Trump began his speech, gunfire rings out from the AGR building. Crooks had fired multiple shots at the former president and hit once. He additionally killed one attendee and injured multiple others. Donald Trump sought cover, and seconds became like hours until he arose pumping his fist, and now other well-known events unfolded. Yet, simultaneously above them, when the first burst of shots ended, a second commenced 33 seconds later by a counter-sniper team that spotted Thomas Crooks and killed him. The gunman was committed to undertaking his criminal deed by extensive planning and preparing for months to maximize his chances of success. He is nearly the opposite of Lee Harvey Oswald. He is younger, notably quiet, unmarried, highly intelligent, and was largely regarded as unpopular but not a loner. Crooks practiced with his rifle, unlike Oswald. He waited for the best circumstances to attack and made rudimentary explosive devices to potentially distract law enforcement or destroy evidence. Yet none of this was possible if the area had been properly secured, and clearly it was not. So, security failures. How'd you like to discuss that? What do you think so far? Hopefully I've given a decent timeline of events.
Yes. There was a ton. I mean, look, like I said, this guy was smart. He planned a lot of stuff, but
they had tons of clues. Tons.
If you're going into this thing, at least attempt a disguise. Like somebody said, wear a MAGA hat or a Trump shirt so you don't stick out like a sore thumb.
I think he realized after he strolled in with the rangefinder, he wasn't going to have any problems. Security was so lax that he was just going.
But you saw so many eyewitnesses pointing this guy out as an outsider.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't even attempt to be a Trump supporter.
Nope.
Or to look like one.
Yeah.
Or, try to blend in with all these other donks.
And like I said, the rangefinder is the first mistake. That he didn't stay is the second. Why did he even come? What's the purpose to even show up with a rangefinder and not stay for the event? So you're not there for the event. You're there for another reason.
Right.
And then he's seen looking at security positions. That's another factor. Why is that not considered? You're not going to at least go up and go, "Hey, what are you doing here?" Why?
So let me understand this correctly, Carmine. So he tried to get in. They wouldn't let him into the event with the rangefinder?
No, they let him in.
They let him in with the
rangefinder.
Oh, I thought you said they.
Oh no, they let him in.
Let him in, and he left.
The metal detector went off.
Okay.
And he had the rangefinder in his hand. They saw him with it, and then they waved him in. They said that's what must have set it off.
It's my camera.
Now, if it had, and like that would have been fine. If he would have been a little bit smarter, maybe he would have found a camera that could have acted like a rangefinder, or something similar to help with the trajectory. That might have been an even more devious way. But
didn't you say that he left for a little while and came
back?
He
went there. He staked out the area, and then he returned at 5, and then he started to put everything into position, made sure the area was clear, sets up the ladder. And then he waited, he was also, you could see the planning that he waited till the very last minute so that there was a very minimal chance. Like those cops climbing up the ladder was the only chance of it not happening.
Right.
And he just scared them off. Mm-hmm. So that was really the only opposition he faced whatsoever.
Thank you, Colleen.
Yes. Thank you.
Rocket Queen.
So, Carmine, allegedly, what I've heard from the, I guess it was the sheriff of Butler County. So, there's been a couple of videos of cops kind of running around a cop car, kind of making U-turns a few seconds before the assassination. And you alluded to the cop that kind of pulled himself up, almost like a pull-up, right? So he has, his hands on the fence up here. And he pulls himself up. He looks over the roof. The shooter points a gun at him. He then drops his hands.
Well, he should have had his sidearm in his hand.
Yeah.
Well, he pops up over
he
that
swings,
ledge.
From what I
First
heard,
of all, they shouldn't have been, grabbing the side. They should have brought a ladder. There should have been somebody else with. I mean, I'll get into exactly what I think, but
yeah,
the lapses are, it's
right. But I mean, allegedly,
Barney
he
Fife.
pulled himself up. The crooks pointed his gun at the officer. The officer kind of ducked back down and then fell.
And then Crooks fired.
Allegedly injured himself as well. And then Crooks then pointed back at the president and fired kind of in a rushed way, right?
He did. He had to, because he knew that they were right almost on top.
Right. People are...
Comment of the day, boys, right here. Did he have chicken bones and a Coke?
Nice. No, unfortunately, he, like I said, he's the opposite of Oswald. He is the Warren Commission's dream, is what he is. Thomas Crooks is the Warren Commission's dream, because
this is how it
left
was supposed to work with Oswald.
This is how an actual attempted assassin goes about if they plan on succeeding. This is how they go about it.
And correct response is to eliminate them 6 seconds after.
Yeah, you have a dead suspect.
33.
Yeah.
Hey, party's over.
They're not making the same mistake,
We're done.
right?
Yeah.
Keep them alive for 48 hours. Like, no, we're not doing this time.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, and you know what? I'm glad, because, like I said, he had 100 rounds. That could have been a bloodbath.
Oh, yeah.
If he would have got more shots off and just started firing into the crowd.
Yeah.
So we're lucky that counter sniper, like I said, it might have seemed like a long time, but it was only 33 seconds until they took him out.
Yeah. And so, I actually got some crap because I gave credit to the Secret Service team, like right around Trump, and how they covered him within 3 seconds. And I was comparing it to JFK, where
how long it took
Hellerman and no one else did anything.
Yeah.
It's very different. And the counter sniper team, as Rob and I discussed on our show 48 hours after on Monday night, which is equivalent to doing a podcast on the night Ruby shot Oswald, right?
Mm-hmm.
And being like, it was this, it was that. And of course
we got some things wrong. Like the counter sniper team I posited was state police and not the Secret Service, but apparently it was Secret Service counter sniper team.
Right.
So they at least did one thing right.
Yeah, but there were 2 counter sniper teams on both the roofs, and we were right that one of the CS teams, their view was obstructed not only by the tilted roof, but by the tree in the way, and it was allegedly the other counter sniper team that had to take him out. And we were right that when we talked about how the guy pulled back and had to readjust, they were probably looking 500-600 yards out. Like, they weren't looking 150 meters out. They assumed that was of the local police. And now you have a situation where the Secret Service is blaming the local police. And
actually, I'll get it. Yeah, I can go. So after I'll give a little background, because people don't really, I don't think, besides us, people who are into investigating these agencies, the Secret Service, after Abraham Lincoln's death in 1865, multiple American leaders entrusted the Treasury Department to create a protective detail for the president and other high-ranking officials. The Secret Service became an essential role in American democracy, which, if operated effectively, safeguards lawful elections. If assassins cannot remove officials via illegal means, they cannot affect the democratic will of the U.S. public. I respect the idea of the Secret Service as an institution because, in many instances, it's comprised of people who dedicate their lives to potentially sacrificing themselves for America's defense. However, they are just human beings, and everyone can make errors, and some can be incompetent in the execution of their duties. While the secrets... I'm sorry?
Especially while you got the B team on it.
Yep.
The C
McCarthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while the Secret Service regarding the Trump assassination attempt was proactive at least once by prior warning the campaign's officials that outdoor events were not recommended due to increased security risks, that is about all they did beforehand that seems proactive. Beyond that warning, it appears their conduct on the day in question was severely lacking. Their failures are obviously a factor in the shooting, and it's now quite glaring that officials did not have control of the event's location or had even secured all the buildings within 160 yards. The Secret Service leadership deserves significant blame for some of the events of the day. Reportedly, local police had already told the Secret Service before they, quote, lacked the resources to station a patrol car outside a key building, which just happened to be the shooter's firing position. The event should have been canceled if security could not be assured, and it seemingly could not. Despite the problems officials were aware of, it appears they remained confident in their ability to deal with any situation, but the facts reveal that also is not true. Officials especially are unable to grant reasonable protection if they are understaffed or don't coordinate effectively with local law enforcement by using all of its resources to maximum effect. Former New York police detective Patrick Brosnan operates a security firm that protects heads of state and trained with the U.S. Secret Service. He suggested, quote, a building that close to the stage should have been secured and under surveillance from the start. After these events, I would hope the requisite distance of security control for outdoor events is at least 500 yards or greater, and it might be safer to keep most gathering indoors. Every president that has been assassinated in U.S. history was in a public setting without enough security controls. From Abraham Lincoln to John F. Kennedy, we've lost 4 American presidents to assassination, and each generation that endured it was gripped for a time by the resulting chaos and despair. It's not just the loss of a popular high official, but the undoing of our democratic process by violence that renders the greatest damage. When security officials fail to protect our leaders, they must be held to account. Additionally, those familiar with the service and its history should not be surprised their performance was lackluster. We might consider the Kennedy case. In that matter, the Secret Service was out drinking in strip clubs until just hours before they were supposed to protect America's president. Decades of supposed reform have little effect, and the Secret Service has been caught up in other embarrassing circumstances, such as when the Obama administration Secret Service agents partied with prostitutes amid a Colombian diplomatic visit. Needless to say, the Secret Service has had a mixed history regarding performance issues.
Like the Reagan assassination, Carmine.
Yeah.
Or the
Ford.
attempt.
Oh, yeah.
I think, they did a pretty good job there with Reagan.
Yeah.
This, again, I kind of equated to, not only was Reagan a politician, but he was a beloved, actor.
Yeah.
Known, governor of California before that. I mean, this is a well-known, well-liked guy who came back from his injury, and I think was able to, get reelected for a second term because of it. I think that, the country kind of rallied behind this guy, and because I grew up in the Reagan era, and I remember when this happened, and he was viewed as like, this tough Superman type guy.
I still remember the joke. He made a joke to his doctors before they were about to operate on to take out the bullet. He said, "You're all Republican, right?"
Right. You can't beat this guy. I mean, he's great.
I mean, yeah, he was definitely a talker.
Yeah,
Reagan,
and so was Trump.
Yeah,
it's very similar. Like when that balloon popped and he goes, "Miss me." I think it was 6 months after. It's just that type of mentality, and fearlessness. Like, it's just, miss me. Like, didn't even flinch, and having been shot not long before.
Yeah,
it is very similar, I have to say.
Yeah,
and whether you like Trump or not, and this is not a political podcast. We said that when Rob and I did our show earlier in the week. You can't deny that photo is going down in political history.
Yeah.
Like, whatever side you fall on, like, that's just what it is. And
it's like trying to deny that it was an assassination attempt, trying to deny that's
unless another one usurps it in the future.
Yeah, and I hope, So, according to multiple news sources, the Secret Service was aware of crooks on the grounds at least 26 minutes to an hour before the shot was fired because he was seen with a backpack and rangefinder. Roughly 10 minutes before the shooting commenced, the Secret Service began finally to view the suspect as a threat. The sloping AGR building roof, which the suspect would eventually use to undertake his attack, was considered unsafe by officials, and this was among the excuses why no person was positioned on it.
Yeah, that was the least sloping roof I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Pennsylvania State Police and local Butler Township law enforcement noted they provided dozens of police officers, but they also state not being responsible for areas outside the security perimeter set by Secret Service. The director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, however, countered that local police were in the building on which Crooks positioned themselves with the ladder. Yet at least they attempted to apprehend the gunman, after copious reasons would indicate he was an imminent threat. Following the repeated series of utter failures, multiple Biden administration leaders, including the Director of Homeland Security, expressed total support for the Secret Service and its director. Similar to the Kennedy case, the Secret Service and administration are conducting damage control to limit the political fallout during an election cycle. My question is, how can you express full confidence in a group whose leader that just allowed the first president in decades to be hit by gunfire? It would seem the message is they fully support incompetence.
Yeah. She should have been immediately fired.
Just
Period. End of
just like
discussion.
Rowley back in the day should have gotten it too. The head of the
Yep.
Secret Service under Kennedy should have gotten it just as quickly.
Exactly. I mean, of course, the circumstances are totally different.
Yeah, but somebody's got to.
But somebody's
held to
head
account.
needs to roll.
Yeah, has to be
You
held
know?
to account. Somebody screwed up, so it's up to, and someone was in charge.
Right.
So,
sorry, lady, but
yeah.
Trump ain't a bag of Cheetos or whatever she was doing before. This, even though people say it looks like a Cheeto.
Well, and it's just so mindless to say we fully support they screwed up. So you support them screwing up. Great, that's a great message to deliver. We support
Everybody
mediocrity.
gets a trophy. Yeah.
Official, they utterly failed, and they don't deserve confidence in their abilities to perform basic security until drastic changes are made. Otherwise the same people are going to make the same mistakes, and next time we may not be so lucky.
It could have easily been him at some point. And I, if I saw that happen and I'm the president, she's fired.
Well, she's fired, and whoever her direct underlings, the ones who are supposed to set up the security, get it as well.
Yep.
All three of them get fired.
Yep.
Just
like Hoover did with all his agents right after the assassination. I mean,
exactly. People got reassigned, punished, and fired.
Yeah, like 20 people.
Yeah, because they didn't do what they were supposed to.
Yeah, and it went from the top to the bottom. So,
and I'm sure it happened in other agencies.
It rolls downhill.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I'm not getting blamed for this.
This is some bullshit,
Guess
man.
what? Yeah. So one of the things that the press, seemingly like an amnesia victim, is having a problem with is developing a motive. They keep acting like the motive of this shooter is just unthinkable and unknowable, and somehow we have to, really keep looking for a long time until we can come to some sort of possible motive. Mm-hmm. Well, I have a possible motive, and I think it's based on the facts and what we know so far. So the quite embarrassing ban of Thomas. So that was something I forgot to mention. So not only was he not allowed on the school team, he was told not to come back for preseason the next year too. That's how bad a shot he was.
I mean, that's pretty cruel considering that you could practice in that off year and
but
come
they didn't
back
think he could practice enough.
Decent.
To be good.
Well, that's pretty damn bad, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that embarrassing ban from the high school rifle team, and whatever, whether it was as bad as some witnesses say he was bullied, or whether it was just a minor amount of bullying that occurred, people mentioning it. Let's just say even if they joked about it, if they were his friends, they're like, "Hey, you still suck at shooting." No matter where you're getting it from, it's going to bother you. It's going to bother you that you are known as the worst shot in town. That's almost like a song. Like someone could write a song about someone who was the worst shot in town.
Well, to supplement that viewpoint, I saw a clip out there at some point this week, and I forgot. I didn't save it when I saw it, but apparently there was a clip of this guy like losing his mind at. It looked like a political rally on a campus somewhere.
I saw that, Rob.
And he was like screaming at the top of his lungs and shaking and shit,
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was him. It was someone that
it
looked
could have
like
not been him.
Like,
I don't know.
I don't know
But-
either. I don't know.
But that dude, whoever that was, is unhinged.
Well, I think this was an internal mental thing. I think that this was he obsessed on. Like I said, he's an engineer, and if you look at engineers, they might not like to admit this, but being a bit obsessive myself, I understand. If you look at engineers, they're usually they're very detail oriented. They like the intricacies of everything. They need to know every little detail, every little measurement. And he had an engineering degree from the community college, so he at least had a basic engineering understanding. So over and over in his mind, this failure is just hanging there for years. And what does he do? As soon as he graduates, he begins to practice with a rifle. He spends a year at the gun club regularly practicing what he is not going to be the worst shot anymore. So I think
And
that
Colleen,
began.
Yes, you're right. Lots of people don't have friends, and lots of people do get bullied. It's not an excuse. You're absolutely 100% right.
Oh, no,
we're not
no,
saying
no,
that it
yeah.
is.
It's not. No, but it is how people. It's how monsters are made. Monsters don't just come out of the woodwork.
Right. There's a lot of other factors involved, but
how his
this was
parents
a
raised
perfect-
him, the friends he had, the enemies he had. It was a perfect storm, so to speak.
Yeah, it's
but
ingredients in
unfortunately,
the soup.
But it's a lot easier to make one of these in modern times than it was in the 60s. Oswald and people considered an assassin were aberrations. We're seeing school shootings almost weekly.
Yeah.
We don't need to see political shootings almost weekly. Yeah. So we certainly need to do something. We can't just sit back and watch it continue.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And there are a lot of similarities between the alleged bullying, whether he was bullied or not.
Yeah.
And just when you look at school shooters in general, I mean,
yeah.
almost all of them.
From Columbine on.
Yeah, exactly. Almost all of them are nonconformist. Like
well, here you
Oswald.
go.
Right?
Here you
Like
go.
Oswald
I
is
saw this too,
nonconformist.
and it's a good time to bring it up.
Yeah.
The caption: does anyone know why they aren't showing this on the mainstream media?
Because it could be it's probably a fake because of the neck thing. That's how you can tell a fake photo. Is there's usually a collar or something to separate the neck from the face, so that they can just post it onto something else. That's probably why it's not in the mainstream.
Possibly,
The neck's too long. He looks like a giraffe. Look at it.
He's
look at the size of the neck. Well, I know, but look at
and
the size
skinny.
of the. But look at the neck. Like it's like the head was shoved. It's not even the right angle of the face.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? It's almost like they took and they just put it on
And
to the body.
And guys, I think that's a really good point because
Well, deep fakes
I know
certainly
Rob
are
and
gonna
I
make this harder. Like just the deep fake community is going to have loads of things to do with this. They're going to create so many different fakes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure. And today, and I've been following this on X since it happened. The alleged FBI assistant director that was allegedly in the crowd and taking pictures, kind of like the Babushka lady, right? I think we mentioned this
they're already trying to find
show.
mysterious figures that nobody has
Right.
answers about yet.
And and they tried to say it was like an assistant director of the FBI, I guess like a couple under a Ray. And
Like George H.W. Bush being in Dealey Plaza. That myth.
it's exactly like that. And,
Exactly.
And a lot of the Republican accounts like pick it up and be like, oh, it could be her, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I've got something real quick on that note as well, and maybe it's a myth we can try to bust here, but I don't know. It's pretty good.
Okay.
So let me show you guys something real quick, and I don't know if there's any sound associated with this or not. There was originally, so let's try to play it here, and I'll get you guys' thoughts.
She's not even freaking the fuck out. What the fuck? This shit, dude. Watch. Watch. She sits down. Yep. Watch this. Puts the sign up.
Take a look at what happened.
Shots go off.
She's completely normal. And then watch.
And then
What the fuck? What the fuck? People are freaking out?
And she's filming.
And she's just like right there. She's not even.
Now, what's interesting about this clip? Okay, this person sitting back there, the lady with the hat and the glasses. They're trying to say that it's this woman, assistant director of the FBI, Janine DiGiuseppe. Joe, there's your Italian.
Hey, you were at Carmine too. You were at two paisans.
Yeah. So this is the.
Here, I gotta sit up a little more so you can see the whole shirt. There you go. Now you know I'm an Italian.
Was she trying to take a Zapruder film of this thing?
Oh yeah. Oh, I think
it's a Babushka lady type thing.
It's the DiGiuseppe film.
Yeah. Oh wow, Rob!
Take pictures and it hasn't.
That was nice. That was very nice, Rob.
Yeah. I mean, the question is this woman the assistant director of the FBI?
No,
people take
in disguise.
I don't think.
Who knows?
No,
I mean it's possible.
Those people aren't participating in ops themselves, and if they are,
exactly,
it's just
smart, intelligent, as we've discussed.
Yeah, it just doesn't vibe with any intelligent
But many intelligence figures were alleged to be in Dealey Plaza to watch the show,
and none of them were. Not a single one of the famous ones that have claimed to have been.
But that's just something that we can compare to the Kennedy assassination. Is these theories that come out like this? Now, is this woman suspect? Yeah. I mean, because it looked like when she put that card up and she put it over her mouth, and could have possibly said something, and then the next instant Trump shot. So I can see where people put a conspiracy theory together behind this little piece of film.
But you can never prove it. You can
never prove it unless you figure out who this woman is.
I mean,
exactly.
Look at the pixels we saw. We can never prove it. So it's just.
I would also say, just on the side of reason, that every person now takes pictures of everything from food to people going past them on the street. So this is one of the most important historical moments. Yeah. I have a feeling there are going to be people with cameras that didn't care about getting shot. They wanted to capture what was going on. They were more interested in selling the picture.
Do you know how many people have donked themselves off in the vein of getting a selfie somewhere or falling off
Rocky
a cliff?
Mountains. I've heard about the Rocky Mountains. Multiple people, just falling off cliffs.
Yeah,
trying to get the perfect shot.
Yeah, exactly, and end up killing themselves in the process. So. Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility. This is just a random person, Trump supporter, who, wasn't fazed by all the commotion and pulls their phone out because that's what you do.
Well, and if you notice, that was one of the things Trump and others complimented the crowd on, was not freaking out because they were gun people.
Yeah.
Because it was a heavy hunting area. They were used to the sound of firearms. They didn't ever. If
didn't
that would have happened at a Biden event, you might have seen some real chaos.
I mean, it's in something like this. Just about everybody's going to have their phone out.
Yeah.
And take it. That's why I'm surprised we don't have 1,000 videos of this.
Well, they could have been confiscated.
More will come out. I think. And Carmine, Rob, and I, when we did our kind of initial thoughts show earlier in the week, we were like, I heard a lot of eyewitness testimony being like, oh, I thought it was fireworks at first, right? Mm-hmm. And where that computes, right?
Exactly.
Everyone in Dealey Plaza. So Rob and I were like, what's up with this? Is this just like a psychological, I can't put into my mind what is happening, so I'm going to say it's fireworks instead of gunfire?
Well, I mean, if you want to look at it from that, and we're totally theorizing, but I think that it's a psychological defense mechanism.
Denial.
Maybe, they don't want to accept that it is gunshots.
And
so
initially,
maybe someone's lighting up, and it's a rally, so fireworks were possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So, but once they, and that seems to happen. Yeah. I have two more things, and then whatever.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I was just gonna say, so I given possible motive. Now let me knock down the political motives that people keep trying to offer us, because there is no clear evidence for them. So he's a registered Republican in his state, but he also donated to a liberal political group in the course of 2021. From this, we cannot reasonably deduce it was political motivation that guided him or even played a major role. No manifesto as well. He could have been a throwback Republican old guard that deemed Trump must be stopped, or a leftist that had planned to eliminate a person many in that wing of politics call an existential threat. Yet he was not really involved in political events or promoting a party, and no, details of a manifesto.
And he hadn't even voted yet. He's 20 years old, folks.
Yeah.
He hadn't been able to vote in a presidential election yet.
So he didn't claim to strike a blow for any party or any group. So, this is a personal motive. So that's why I think that was the motive I've offered is a possibility, because I think it's personally induced. So the explosives in his car feasibly were to either provide him a distraction to escape, or he was committed to dying at the scene and would destroy his car, the gas station, those around it, and what evidence remained. His premeditation of targeting Trump supports he was certainly against anti-Trump, and the prominence of Trump as a figure would garner anyone who shot him endless historical infamy. This person was best known in high school for being the worst shot most had ever witnessed, and perhaps he desired to fire a shot that would forever change the world. He failed. We're all better off for it. I don't think any reasonable person wants to live in a country where assassins determine the future. And one last note I'd like to make, that I'm finally, much like the lapses of security, roughly 2 days following the attack on Trump, the Biden administration finally granted Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Secret Service protection that he had been requesting for months. Mm-hmm. It is not surprising it took a complete failure of security to finally push officials to do the proper thing, considering RFK Jr.'s family history with political assassinations.
Yeah, let's just hope they don't give him the G team.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
But at least at least there'll be one person there trying to defend him rather than no one.
But I mean, he can afford his own, army.
Oh, exactly,
personal
and I'm sure he does. I'm sure, but they can only do so much.
Why would you want Secret Service protection?
Oh, at this point, you might want to just hire.
Yeah, you might not want it.
Private company.
They suck.
Exactly.
Until they replace a few people.
Oh my gosh.
What a mess.
Yeah, that's just what struck me. I mean, there were certainly tons of security mistakes on, the day of the Kennedy assassination. But
let me show you guys something else.
That was a motorcade. It's not like he was going to be there for a long amount of time.
Right.
And it was a perimeter you had to set up.
Trump wasn't pacing back and forth on the stage.
Exactly,
a moving target. But let me show you guys something else interesting I came across this week. And I don't know what to make of it exactly. So I'll see what you guys think. So, apparently, update Trump assassination attempt. Here we go. Audio forensics confirm at least 3 separate weapons were fired in the assassination attempt. The first 3 shots are consistent in sound and distance. Bullet echo report. The next group of 5 shots are clearly from different weapons. The 6th shot even sounds different than the shots. The last shot is reportedly the sniper who took Crooks out. And apparently CNN oddly confirms this through their own forensic analysis. What do you guys think about that?
The problem is they tried to do this back with the House Select Committee on Assassinations, and it fell apart when it got reassessed.
Yeah. But this place is no echo chamber like Dealey Plaza.
No, I
this
just
place
mean
is wide open.
The problem with sound forensic analysis is every person can hear something different.
True.
So there's no definitive way to say that this proves that there were multiple shooters. It's kind of like what they tried in the past. I can't believe how similar some of the stuff that is now.
Here's how this happens, Carmine. Here's how this happens. So this is a picture of someone else being arrested right after the assassination attempt. This guy's on his knees. He is being handcuffed behind his back by a Secret Service police officer as bystanders stand by and watch. This is not Crooks. The question is,
why?
Why is this guy being arrested? And then I also saw something about this, the water tower.
Mm-hmm.
that I pointed out in the last show that was behind the buildings that would have provided, a much better vantage point. Yeah. That when you zoom in on certain shots of this, that you could see something up on the water tower and then after the Trump shooting, you could not.
Like the
possibly implying.
Like the black little, I don't want to say blob, but.
Once we can get some evidence, it's possible. All of this, the problem is all of this, like we've dealt with before in the Kennedy case, all of this is possible. But until we have some hard evidence,
this is how the conspiracy theories start. You see somebody else getting arrested. Yeah. People think this guy had to have help. He couldn't have done this alone.
Well,
was somebody else actually doing the shooting?
Yeah.
Or were there two shooters?
And with Oswald, there was actually a reason, because there were so many problems with their story and because they changed it so often. Now they've held it so close to because they don't want this to turn into JFK. They don't want this to be another historical conspiracy mongering. You know what I mean? Like where people will try to, and as we saw the next day. I remember I told you earlier, like the next day I started to see the first myths of. Like
this week many more came out. Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, well, people are going to try to monetize. They're going to try to get attention. They're going to try to use this to maximize their fame or infamy in some cases.
Well, now everybody's an expert on Twitter and YouTube. Everybody's got a show.
Until...
We got a show. We're,
like you said about effing around and finding out. Until they're an expert until they meet one.
Yeah. But unfortunately, some of these people now they have hundreds of thousands of followers. We're sitting here preaching facts to 32 people live. If we had a gigantic
like I said before,
reach,
though, I'll take those 32 reasonable people over 1,000 crazies.
Yes.
Amen, bro.
Exactly.
Fucking man.
Yeah, we love our loyal listeners. We have a great time every time we go live with these guys and interacting with them. And I can tell that, that they come back every week. Scott, the single ladder theory, you can't.
Nice.
These guys are great. These guys are great. We love them. I'd rather have this tight-knit community than, like you said, I'm preaching to 300,000 people.
And then you turn into the detached people that you like to joke about in your intro. You turn into those people because you become so detached and away from the actual facts that you just say whatever the hell you want, thinking that it's the truth, when we can obviously prove that it's not.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, do you have anything you want to get into there, bud?
Well, I just want to talk about the disinformation, like the FBI agent was the babushka lady type of thing. I mean, like Carmine said, there are so many.
Here's a famous. I was going to say quick famous one that you guys can look up. That's funny. John Leguizamo, speaking of people who think they're experts, decided to jump into the Trump assassination attempt arena, and he put up a picture of Trump and said, "Look, not a scratch." And then, of course, people on X dug and found out that the picture was from 2022, and Genius had apparently not done much research before he put it up.
Or was he just trolling people?
Well, he got it for it either way. They ratioed him rather well.
He's like, I wonder how many people I can piss off by posting this.
Oh, just looking like a moron. I mean,
yeah.
And there's
he's got I don't care money. So,
he better. I don't think he's going to be getting any casting jobs after that for a while.
He's set for life, bro.
Yeah, and so I have a friend who is not big in the JFK assassination, but one of my best friends in life. And he asked a question: Vinny Mata, do you think the director of the Secret Service will keep her job? Not sure if you touched on this yet. Tuning in late.
Vinny Mata the fourth.
Yeah,
she shouldn't. She should be fired. She should be
fired.
Yeah.
And whoever set up that security perimeter should be fired.
Yeah. And that's what we said in our first in our live about this.
And hopefully there will be a congressional investigation into this.
Oh, there is. She's already been called.
And
McConnell already called her.
Not rely on Biden to fire her because he won't.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
And you saw the Republican senators actually chasing her asking questions, because allegedly on the call with the senators, they were only answering Democratic questions. And they weren't talking or letting the Republicans speak. So that's why that crazy scene happened when she kind of walked out on everyone, because the Republicans didn't get a chance to ask a question. Again, not a political thing. That's what I heard.
Oh no, I read a report that described similar circumstances. What both of the parties need to realize that if you do this, the pendulum swings. For the last 8 years, the pendulum swung left. And guess what? It swings back now.
Yep.
And events like this make it swing harder. So, people can keep obstructing reasonable questions, and people can keep using political motivations to make excuses. Like I said about Mayorkas saying that he had total confidence in them after they utterly failed. You can only lie you can't lie to all the people all the time, as they say. You can lie to some of the people, but you can't lie to all of them. Because some of us, I'm sorry, are just a little too smart. We're just a bit too smart to take your word because you've screwed up and lied so many times.
Yes, we have dealt with a lot of Secret Service shenanigans. I mean, you can go back to JFK. You can even go up to J6. They deleted a ton of records. And again, this is not...
Well, like I told you, even as recent as Obama, they're getting busted. They're supposed to be protecting the president, and they're out hanging out drinking with prostitutes. Okay, this is in the 2000s. This is like 2013. This isn't that long ago. We're not talking about just JFK. That was when, yeah, exactly. It appears that the training is still the training. So what I'd love to know is, what did she and all of her Secret Service agents do the night before? Did they go out drinking? Did some of the guys go hang out at strip clubs and stay up too late, just like in JFK? Why was everyone a little groggy the next day? Because that affects your performance. They can say whatever they want. Well, we're professionals. Well, apparently not very. If a 20-year-old kid can outsmart all of you.
It's crazy. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, that's how insane. It's insane that Lee Harvey Oswald was 24. This kid was 20.
Yeah.
How young do they have to be until you can outsmart them?
Yeah. And Lee Harvey Oswald was,
married,
wittingly or unwittingly part of the false defector program.
Yeah.
He obviously went through the Finland. What was that?
Went through the most advantageous point on the way in.
Right. That was opened a few days before. I mean, this guy is nowhere near close. He hadn't traveled. I mean,
he is a perfect, and that's why I think he was, because he was totally focused. He was totally obsessed. He had one goal, and that goal was going to be, he was going to be remembered forever, and it wasn't going to be as the worst shot.
Yeah.
And this provided him with a perfect opportunity. And like I said, we're lucky. I don't want either. I said that, I think as far as back as Obama, I might have said this to Rob. I'm like, I don't want a president to die in my lifetime because I don't want them on stamps and coins and memorial days. And then I have to act like they're probably, what kills me is that people get so personally invested in Trump or Biden. You're never going to meet them. They don't know you exist. So there's no reason to personally care about the people around you.
Yeah.
Care about your family.
Take everything in context, right?
Yeah. They're politicians.
It is what it is.
And you know what? He showed strength. And Biden, unfortunately, as of late, has shown weakness. Yep. That's how politics works. And people that are complaining about it, sorry, but if you don't win the game by trying to cheat. You don't win the game by killing your opponent. This isn't a war. This is politics.
And of course, the other side of the coin, Carmine, is okay. This kid was focused and all that, and he did it for this reason or that reason.
Yeah.
Or when you look at the entirety of this cluster F of everything that happened, is this some kind of deep state thing where this kid was MK Ultra into doing this? Or
I don't think he needed MK Ultra. I
or
really don't.
influenced by like a handler somehow.
Oh no,
you know,
that
saying,
all
hey,
yeah,
you
all,
know what
yeah,
you should do? Yeah, dude.
yeah. All that is a possibility, but like I said, until we get at some of these files, we're
Yeah,
not
you
going to
can't
be able to
rule it out.
Yeah.
You can't rule it
From
out.
what we know now, like I said, he's the Warren Commission's dream, because this guy is so trackable. His entire, I mean, because he's so young, his whole history, and it's all occurred during the digital age. So you can find out nearly every detail you want to about him, except for, like I said, the social media, I think, is another factor. He was avoiding social media, whether it was for privacy, whether it was to avoid harassment. For whatever reason, he stayed off of social media. He kept a very low profile. That's what an attempted assassin, a smart one, does. They keep a very low profile. They don't make a lot of.
I even know people that use like a guy I work with. He created a fake Facebook account that's not him, with a fake picture, fake name, that he uses to just peruse Facebook, or troll people online, or whatever he does with it. I don't know.
Exactly, and that's just a common just the average person doing that.
Yeah.
So what the hell, I mean?
I mean, this guy could have had some kind of fake online presence.
True. Yeah.
Via whatever.
I'm sure that he skulked about and looked, but I have a reason. There's got to be a reason he didn't interact. I mean, he was certainly cut off. He was he had come to the point to where he had isolated himself. He had probably experienced isolation, and like I said, he grew up in the age of where one of the big problems, and I think we're eventually as a society going to have to figure out a solution for it, is, and they have a law called the right to forget, but it doesn't do anything. But people can't forget anymore. The internet remembers everything. Every mistake, every misstep is remembered forever. And children are having to deal with it. You hear about these cases of kids committing suicide because it's relentless, because you can't escape from the internet. Because
one horrible thing caught on video that goes
for the rest of your. Think of the things we've done that we might have done, perhaps in the past.
Thank God there were no cell phones back in the day.
And you know what? I would have never taken a picture. I don't understand the need of people to document their crimes.
No. It's not like we took a disposable camera with us everywhere we went. We're like, hey, watch this.
Exactly.
All right, so guys, before we close out, I want to ask you.
Going to say, it's like you're making evidence for authorities. It's like here for your case against me. Here's pictures.
So I want to ask one question: if social media and the kind of cell phone instant upload to the internet was available in 1963 in November, and we're going to end on this. Would it be possible or more likely to figure out the JFK if we were in the type of environment we were for this Trump assassination attempt as we were in November 22nd, 63?
I think the environments are almost, and it's sad to say this, but the environments are almost perfectly aligned. Look at 1963.
Very similar.
The country was torn very harshly. The politics started to get out of hand. People were getting violent. There were riots. Whether it was the far left or the far right,
or
it certainly increased.
Yeah,
where Adlai Stevenson got spit on.
Yeah,
where even Johnson and his wife, Lady Bird, got hit by signs and stuff when they were going through Dallas. So I mean, we're in an accelerating political, and that's what, in a way, frightens me, and I want us to be able to hopefully prevent. There's going to be two more, probably. Because JFK, MLK, RFK, within 5 years, a cycle of political violence. 3 major leaders removed. Trump's won. And the FBI's already warned about retaliatory. So it might be someone on the left, but it could be another person on the right. It could be Trump again. You don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
But they need to increase security protocols, certainly. They need to fire some people, and they need to get on the ball, because this isn't going to be the last one, and they need to stop someone before they get 100 rounds of ammunition, an automatic rifle, a bulletproof vest, and explosives detonator onto a building less than 160 yards from a former president. That there was a long path he went on that he should have been stopped at multiple points, and even the day of, all the way to the day of.
Absolutely.
100%, sir.
And
Joseph, is there anything else you want to add, sir?
I'm good, sir. Close
Carmine?
Well, I appreciate you guys having me back. I look forward to coming to do another show with you, and I hope people gotten some value from what we discussed. Hopefully, like Rob's knocked out some myths. I've offered.
Well, dude, it's always a pleasure to have you on. And if you enjoyed Carmine, check out the link below for all things Carmine. He's got books, he's got blog posts, he's got research materials. And again, we'll get all these sources posted up over on Locals at some point for you to check out as well. And Carmine, thanks so much for joining us here on episode 299. Holy crap, of the Lone Gunman podcast.
Uh-oh.
You know what's coming next week, right?
Yep, the big 300.
Yeah. Carmine, I'll have to talk to you off set because it's redacted for Rob.
Yes.
He's not available for this conversation.
That's right. Well, man, we had a fun doing it. Sorry, folks, we went a little long tonight, but hopefully you enjoyed it. There's still a lot of people sticking around, so we appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. Thank you so much for the super chats. I think we missed one from John from the very beginning. So thank you, John. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Scott. We appreciate it very much. Couldn't do this without you guys. And join us next week for episode 300. Apparently, Joe said it's going to be special, so...
Yeah, Rob is getting stripped of his audio responsibilities. He's going to be a scafuza just sitting there listening to my outline, and it will be fun, and I can't wait.
I'll have to check it out when it comes out.
Again. It's literally a huge pleasure every time you come on.
It's always a banger with Carmine. Always.
You are one of the most just great and honest, like logical researchers, and I respect you so much. And
thank you.
I'll talk to you again too soon.
As well.
All right, folks, that's it for us for this week. For Carmine Savastano, Joey Scars Borelli, Don Henley, and your boy, the Triple B, Big Bad Bob. That's it for us, folks. Peace. This is where we dance, Carmine.
This is the time in Sprockets when we dance.
Our Devo impression.
Yeah, do a little Les Grossman. But...
Yes. They love
Wait,
when we
what did I
dance.
say? The Lone Gunman? What?